Our goal is simple: to help you achieve the dream and vision you first had when you thought about starting a business. We're here to make growing your business less complicated. There are building blocks to build a sustainable business. We promise to seek them out and address them all. The Better Your Business Show starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the Better Your Business Show. Learn from our panel of industry experts as we teach you how to better your business. I am Natalie Essman, financial strategist and your host. Our co-host this morning, we have the professor of social media himself, Mr. Todd Social, and executive business coach in the house, Ms. Shannon Mavis.
Good morning, everyone. We all know that if you're a business owner, then you're a visionary. You are actively taking the steps to establish financial freedom and leave a legacy behind. You have goals, you have dreams, and you have the commitment to achieve them. But what you may not have, and why we're bringing this show to you, is to give you access to experts who can provide real step-by-step instructions, a roadmap of sorts to help you reach your destination without falling prey to the mindset that you have to fail to succeed. We always have a mantra here that just says failure is not required.
And we all know that building a business doesn't require an instruction manual. Our goal is simple. It's to turn your roadblocks into bite-sized pieces to help you overall better your business.
Yes, so whether you are watching us live or joining the replay, make sure you go to pillar5.com, take your free business assessment, and then join us in the show. Let's talk about any questions or concerns that you have for your business.
I am super excited today for today's guest, but simply because of how excited Natalie has been. Since before the show, the minute I got on, she was like, okay, have you looked her up? Do you know about her? Because I'm super excited. And Todd said I was going to love her, and I absolutely do. And you're going to love her too. And so I'm excited to hear what she's got coming for us, and really with the title, when you brought that up, the title of today's show, I was like, ooh, I need to learn more about this. I want to hear how culture eats strategy for breakfast. That was pretty amazing. So I'm excited for the wisdom that she's going to bring.
Maura is just one of those people where, as times change, there's people that are sometimes often ahead of their time. And so essentially, like the way her career has been, the way she has shifted, and the way she has helped other people shift, I've seen real time how she can make people more productive by understanding culture. And I've seen real time how people have been unproductive by ignoring, this opportunity. And so she's like an ignition to a match of what we talk about a lot, which is mindset. We talk about how mindset can make a difference. And I really believe from a financial standpoint, from a infrastructure standpoint, from all the pillars, culture to me is the center crux of that. And more is kind of leading the charge and helping companies to understand how to navigate that.
That's super important. Yeah. That's super important. And today, with the businesses today, that's a big problem for many of them is the culture. It becomes so toxic. And it's hard for people to really thrive in those types of environments. So anyone that's dealing with that's trying to eliminate those types of issues and create a healthier environment, healthier culture for companies, we really need that. And people need to understand as they're building businesses how important this is. So I'm excited that she's going to bring information and knowledge that way, because Todd, I think you're absolutely right. It's needed.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I'll tell you a little bit about her background. She's a neurofacilitation practitioner. She's a certified change management specialist. She's an author. She's a transformational leadership consultant. She's been a firefighter, 2-time title-winning bodybuilder, and martial artist. Right? Amazing. That's one of the things that I find so intriguing. You have to have an amazing amount of mental toughness and self-discipline. That's all. When people are like that, I'm so intrigued by that. So it's one of the reasons I'm excited. But she has her early career as a mind body master instructor contributed to the proven evidence-based methodology in her culture fitness programs, which help businesses create resilient, adaptive, and inclusive cultures in an ever-changing workforce. So let's bring her on screen with us, Maura Barclay. Good morning and welcome to the show. We are happy to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you all. Thank you all. My gosh, I don't know if I can live up to all this hype. I mean, I was just having a dance break, and next thing I know, I'm all these things. So I just want to say thank you for having me on. I'm quite honored. Thank you.
Natalie did a good job with that.
Yeah, no pressure, no pressure. So tell us a little bit more about your journey, how it started. How did you get into, going from firefighter, bodybuilder, how did you go into being a facilitator for businesses?
I've always felt this call for service. And, as I have pursued it, it has evolved. And I just keep iterating and iterating and iterating. And I started with very hands-on manifest. I grew up in a very chaotic environment. So it's quite natural for me to work in a chaotic environment and then organizing it, making sense of it, and helping people. The other thing that I really appreciated about emergency services is it allowed me to be with people, to assist people in a very hands-on way, a literal way, on the worst day of their life. It was such an honor. I got to watch people come into the world, go out of the world. I help people sometimes who have gone out of the world, come back into the world. It was really quite a spiritual thing. And it was a very dirty thing because, literally dirty. The car crashes, all the things. So I realized after about 7 years that this really wasn't, I wasn't using all of my skill set, and I wanted more. It was challenging on many levels, but it was also not enough for me. And there was also a big culture issue. I wound up leaving because of a harassment incident. And it was one that I didn't talk about for a year. And I talked with my crew and we were all like, yeah, let's just let it slide. And then unfortunately, the individual, I got assigned to that individual who had harassed me a year before. And it was a nightmare. And I'm like, I can't in good conscience, I can't stand back and let this individual think that this sort of conduct is okay. And we have policies in place, right?
Right.
We have policies. This is what the policies are for. I'm pulling the trigger. Oh my gosh, y'all. When I did that, and by the way, the entire rest of the department had complained bitterly behind this person's back. I thought, well, everybody's going to see me as the hero. So let me just take a little quiz. Who among you think that once I pulled the trigger on sexual harassment in the fire department, do you think I was seen as the hero?
Probably not, would be my guess.
No. The union surrounded, oh my gosh, the union surrounded and protected this man. And I became the pariah. And I was so confused by this. I'm like, but what? You said what? And this is sort of the beginning of my understanding of what is culture. What you think your policies are, what you think you stand for, what you are touting as a core value, and what you're really doing every day. This was my very first introduction to, none of this is real. None of these things matter. They are just words in a book. Nobody's living by this. So I wound up going eventually into the mind-body world. I'd already won some bodybuilding contests, so I really knew my way around nutrition and around training. So I wound up becoming a physical, a personal trainer and a coach. A lot of my people who wanted me to help them, and I was also in the mind body space. I was a therapeutic yoga teacher trainer, so I would take these instructors on this 7-day long journey where they would just fall apart and then come back together. So I was used to mentoring. I was used to working in the space of creating a psychologically safe space so people could grow, so people could explore, so that there was no failure, there was no wrong, there was only feedback, right? even though some of the feedback was very difficult, I got into a position where I got to help people through difficult things. And I also, as a personal trainer, I had some people who were like, listen, can we just not do the training? Can we just talk? I'm like, you really just want to pay me to talk? They're like, I'm like, well, maybe that's a thing. Is this even a thing? This is like, gosh, in the back of the early 2000s. So I'm like, well, this is something that I really enjoy. And so I got really good at helping people navigate through stuff. I mean, I just learned as I went. And then I wound up going from that into martial arts, right? I grew up in a home that wasn't safe. It wasn't psychologically safe, and to some degree it wasn't physically safe. So I became a warrior, and I was like, I'm gonna learn to fight like a man. And because that's what you learn how to do in self-defense. And eventually I remember, I could tell you the class. I remember when this happened. There was this incredibly badass Israeli dude. And we were learning something called Arjikempo, which it's just like how to kill someone in like 30 seconds or less with a napkin. I mean, it was like with a napkin. With a napkin. I was like, I would be able to take any household object and kill somebody. Like, this was a totally untenable mindset, but I was terrified all the time, right? That's what you do when you're a scared person, is you figure out how to defend yourself, so anyway, I remember coming into a class, and they had a street smarts class going on at the same time. And there was this really lovely young woman. I think she was about 16, and she was a woman of color. And so she felt particularly at risk. So she was getting her ass to that class, right? So I remember walking by it, and they were all there in their street clothes, and she had her belt wrapped around her hand to defend herself. Like, this is a street smarts technique. And I remember thinking, number one, if you need to defend yourself, how much time does it take to get that belt off, wrap it around, and then I'm like, this is starting to not make sense to me. And it also feels like women have this, it's not just women, but at the time I thought women have this innate ability to sense when there's danger and to be able to shift the energy and get the heck out. Why isn't anybody talking about that? I feel like we're missing our skills. I feel like we have an intuitive power that we are not recognizing. We don't know what it is. We don't know where it comes from. So we don't trust it. In fact, society's like, stop that. You're being paranoid, right? So then we do that to ourselves. So I created an entire program called Unbreakable Woman that focused exclusively on how to help women stand in their personal authority, which is why the Fortune 500 and the military brought me in as a speaker trainer, to help them see where they're powerful, how to communicate that in a compassionate way. The other thing that was really important to me is, how can I bring more love to something that is very divisive, that is very like contentious? How can I bring love and expansiveness and lightness to it? How can I bring warmth and humor to something really difficult? That's been my thing from the beginning. That's how I healed my own stuff, was through all the things I just said. Mm-hmm. So in my book, within like the first few pages, it's like, listen, if you want to man bash, throw the book away, because I won't do it. There's lots of men who are helping to solve this. And ultimately, men are the solution. And that's when I started working in culture, because I recognized that empowering women is not going to help them get in the boardroom. Helping men understand how they can empower women and lift the velvet rope. That's how we're going to get women in the boardroom. And I am very, very passionate about diverse voices in leadership. I mean, to me, this is your competitive advantage right here. Diverse voices in leadership. And a lot of companies, God bless them all, this is no judgment, they're really, really good at diversifying management, middle management. But boy, you get to that C-suite and it looks like a bunch of the same people. That's what it looks like. And it's a little bit of an echo chamber for them. And they are simply participating in the culture that they were raised in. And so, I think one of the things that I love about what I do, and it has been from the beginning, is one, do really hard things that I shouldn't be able to do. So I have a software, I have a program for it, I have a neural pathway for it, and then bring others into that same experience. The difficult things that are ultimately going to, and this is Shanna, that you said the magic word today. Here's the watchword for today. Here's the buzzword: legacy. Legacy. What kind of legacy do you want to leave? with your tenure in your organization, because there'll always be someone who will come and innovate and make more money, make the shares more. There will always be someone who can do more money. But can you integrate your board? Well, you've just changed the world. You see, that's why I'm here. That's what I do. I'm here to help, and I want to make it light and expansive and fun. Even when it sucks, we're going to do our best to find the love in it. And I don't mean romantic love. And I love that it's Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Because when I talk about love, y'all, I'm not talking about romantic love. That is the tiniest little kind of almost waste of love in some ways. Like, yes, romantic love is fun and partnership is wonderful. I'm talking about the filial love. I'm talking about the kind of love that New Yorkers showed for each other after 9/11. That's the love that I work in. That's the love of family and understanding that we are all the same. We all want the same things. How can we help each other get it? How can we help each other get the things that we all want? And if we start working together, we will all have it. It's just like that. I'm not living in a fantasy. It's called cooperation.
Yes, I love it.
It's just
Now you know,
cooperation.
Shanna, why I was excited.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm like, okay, how do we dare follow this? You know, because I'm like, she's speaking my language completely. I'm just in love with what you're saying, because I completely agree with that. It is cooperation. It's not me against you. It's me for you.
yes.
And the minute we step outside of ourselves and start looking at others, how can I help you? What can I do that makes your life a little bit easier? It doesn't negatively impact me. You know, and sometimes it really is as simple as, you know, the conversation. I would love for you to have been my trainer that said, yeah, let's talk, because I hate working out. I was telling Natalie that, but yeah, it's having someone there. Sometimes that's all it takes. But yeah, the collaboration between men and women, it's not us against them. It's, you know, we have to figure out how to work together, no matter who we are. So yeah, I love everything that you're saying. And yes, Natalie, I am converted to a fangirl as well.
You're the mic drop.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, this, I think to your point, Jenna, you know, one of the things that I'm really focused on is creating a psychologically safe space. Okay. And one of that's what Unbreakable Woman is all about. And that's why my book is a manual about how to step into your authority. So you can be confident, you can be authentic. So it starts there. We do need to empower women. We do. That's a piece of it. But we can't empower women through the ceiling. Like we can't, no, someone has to realize, oh, wait a minute, there's only so much women can do. And we need to start to put the focus on the people who have the power and the influence. Sorry, I got excited there for a second. Hey, listen, relax. It's okay. I want here's my question. Can I ask a question to y'all? I mean, the brain truster, can I ask a question? I know you're interviewing me, but I want to ask you a question. Do you think it's possible, particularly after Me Too, which needed to happen, now that people who have abused, male, female, whatever, Me Too is about bringing accountability to conduct that we know is damaging. Okay, period. All right. So on the heels of this, I feel like the white men of privilege. Well, I put it in air quotes, but you know, just because that word is so, I have that word. It's become a thing. White men, do you think that they feel safe? Do you think they feel psychologically safe to say something that is biased? Do you think they want someone there who's going to be like, you're biased? Do you think do white men feel safe right now? Do white men of power and influence feel safe?
No, I can say that from the rooms I'm in. They're searching for the correct phrase or the verbiage. It's almost like a word psychology.
Yes.
They'll be in their zone talking, and then they'll stop or pause or adjust based upon who's in the room. So, and I've noticed the language change just in like networking meetings, where it's not like they're not trying to offend anyone, but they're also careful about what they're saying instead of speaking from their truth.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, I think this is why culture is so important, because it's not, I know me and you have talked about this before about things being trauma informed. I think the true trauma for a lot of them is the fact that there's so many variables being thrown at them now that have nothing to do with business. Things that they were kind of, had a blind spot to, because, we had this 9 to 5 culture. But now, because of Me Too, I think the combination of Me Too, the pandemic, George Floyd, we can go down the list.
Yep.
I think it's all now vacuum where it's like, okay, they're saying the same thing that a lot of us have been saying for a long time. Where is my safe space to speak?
Yes. I would love to hear from, I see
agree.
Shanna's up. Shanna's up there. She's like, she's watching her language right now. I can tell.
I feel that way about as just being a woman in leadership and having a voice every time. I feel like, where is that? I don't want to say politically correct, but, and then even if you're in different environments, people will still say it different ways. So it's like, I tried, okay, what's the right way to say it? Am I being rude? Am I not being rude right now? I don't know, because depending on which culture I'm around, it's going to be different. So it's confusing too at the same time. It's like, I'm not trying to be offensive, but maybe I am just because I don't know better. And so sometimes it's better just to be quiet.
Yeah. I really want to hear from you, Shanna.
Well, I struggle with the privilege, especially, yes, there is absolutely the white privilege that everyone is aware of. I think those that care, there isn't a safe space. But I think there's a lot of them that don't care,
Yeah.
that aren't even aware of it. And so there isn't a safe space for anyone. It's a challenge. I don't believe that any of us have a safe space, and I think that's why it's important that you have this mission. That, and the same thing, Natalie and I, we were looking at it. I have the same thing in my bio. I want this safe space for people.
Yes.
Where they understand that there's grace, there's, and that's a lot of what's missing. We're not looking at the other person. We're looking at ourselves and feeling like I don't have. Well, I'm not creating. So if I create a safe space, then I know I have one. And I'm not concerned about anyone coming in and interrupting that, because I know that I'm creating this space for you to say whatever is on your mind. I'm not going to take it as offense, because there's no reason that you have to offend me. So I don't know. It's a struggle for me saying, do they have a safe space? Well, I don't think any of us do, unless we create it.
I think it has raised the vibration for authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
I think people who are authentic, people who are love from the door, because I like how you reference love, because to me, when a person has agape love, they have a true understanding of different people, and they can speak their love language, and I think authenticity is the difference maker. People who are authentic, I don't care what color you are, I don't care what background you are now more authentic. People who are inauthentic struggle, because now they're trying to figure out their space, because they knew from conception how they rose or ascended to their growth was not necessarily totally authentic. I've seen the difference, especially when it comes to finance. And I know Natalie loves to talk about money, right? So to me, this is the difference. People who are, building good businesses, building good framework, building good cultures, you see the growth around them, not just them, but you see the growth around them. People who haven't done that, you've seen their businesses dissolve, merger, get acquired, all those things. And I think that's the space that people are now trying to aspire to, which is why culture is important. I think people are truly, if you're authentic, you're trying to aspire there. If you're inauthentic, you're trying to figure out how to be authentic, thus trying to find your space. But it puts you in an awkward position, because you don't know what you don't know. This is why I think culture. I think what pillar 5 is. I think what we talk about all the time about mindset is really important because people used to do things without thinking before. Culturally speaking, if you look at if you look at sports as a good barometer, right? Sports is the greatest barometer because it's showing you real time. If you look at who's talking about the Olympics right now, who even cares? I mean, conceptually we care because we're supposed to, because it's our country, but is it the people that we care about that are there, or is it the actual Olympics? And I think that's the difference when you start looking in, whether it's movies. Like, I was more enamored for the Super Bowl yesterday, halftime. Seriously, no joke. I was enamored for the Super Bowl halftime for one sole reason: being a kid, growing up on the type of music that kind of was my safe space. I was now able to see something 20 years later that took a long time to be acknowledged. And I think that's the point. Like, it took Me Too and these other things to finally acknowledge something that so many people already accept, so many people already love, because it's authentic music, to finally get its stage. I think that's to your point about culture and love more.
Oh, and I wanted to unpack, thank you, Todd. I wanted to unpack a couple of things that you said that I felt were really relevant to this conversation. Number one is mindset. I don't know if y'all have heard about Ray Dalio and Blackwater Investments. I think that's his thing. He wrote the book Principles, and he has a culture of radical transparency in his business. I think that they pretty much have they lose most of their people after 90 days because of a mindset issue. And I want to talk about that just for a moment, because it's at the heart of how to create a diverse culture that has psychological safety. And that is, for the people, number one, bias has to be decriminalized immediately. If I leave any mark on this planet, I want it to be that. Let us embrace our bias and navigate it, please, which means we can't have microaggressions anymore, folks. Please. I appreciate where you're coming from, but someone like me, and I am guilty as anybody, and I do try to bring this into awareness. But to your point, the fact that white men are starting to wait, before I say that, let me see what my impact will be. Let me have a moment to experience the perspective of others. This is the gateway. This is the gateway. I love that this is happening. This is how all of us have operated forever. They're getting like, oh, is that going to be okay? Or am I going to risk my job, my authority, my credibility? Am I going to diminish myself as a person of color or a woman by saying this to the person who has the power and influence? So they're at a level of awareness that we have all had to live our whole life. Thank you. There's Ray Dalio's book. Now, the thing that I think it was Ray talked about, or this might have been in a recent culture book that I read called The Culture Quotient, there is fixed mindset, there is growth mindset, and then there is the open mindset. This is our ability to receive feedback and grow from it. Growth mindset doesn't imply that you know how to get feedback that's difficult. So for men and women of color, learning how to give that feedback without blame or shame in a judgment-free zone. That's why I always put the privilege thing in air quotes, because there's a judgment in that. And it might be true, but has that gotten us where we need to go? No. So how about we move? Let's look somewhere else, because that hasn't worked so far. I mean, it's worked a little bit, but not really. Like, I don't want these men to feel like they're under attack. So if they feel free to let their bias fly, and then let us be like, oh, you know what, that actually, let me tell you about that. So when I'm in a group of, and so men, I want you to hear this, because I was born in the 60s. So it is nothing for me to say, all right, guys, that's not cool. And here's why. See, the women are nodding because we get it. Let me just put it to you this way. That is something that's in our language that makes the masculine everybody. And normally, like, we don't even think about it, do we? But let me say, if it was reversed and it was normalized for men and women to say, all right, ladies, and there were men in the room, do you think they'd say something about that?
Yes.
Yeah. So why is it that women are being difficult when they're referred to as guys and they're like, could you just choose a different word, please? Because I kind of feel like I don't belong. Belonging is the heart of culture. Diversity is great. Diversity is great. More diversity, the better. But diversity can be solved by onboarding, by recruiting and onboarding and getting a diverse staff. Inclusion. Well, now you got to give them a seat at the table. It's not enough to have bodies in the room. They need to be at the table. So here's diversity, here's inclusion. But guess what we really need? Belonging. And belonging is way over here. Belonging can only happen through psychological safety, and it is the ability to feel welcomed and valued and to make an impact. You say you welcome me, you say you value me, then give me the opportunity to impact this organization in a meaningful way. That's belonging. And we don't have it.
Boom. Let's take a quick break with that, and we're going to dive deeper in just a moment. So we'll be right back. Go refill your coffee. We'll see you soon.
A wise man once asked, what if starting a business was like jumping out of a plane? And like 76% of businesses, what if 76% of parachutes failed before you reached the destination? What about those of you who have already jumped? Well, you may still have time to check your business. Pillar5.com, where businesses get it right.
One of the problems that I've had thus far is that I'm going on my experience. I'm building a business on my heartache. And one of the things that I've had to take out of that is you can't build a business entirely on emotion. And so this allows me to take the emotion out of it. This is what you need to do, whether you like it or not.
And we're back.
Woo-hoo.
Maura, I am super, super excited that you're here. There's a lot of things that you were talking about, and we want to dive deeper into that belonging, because as you were talking, it's just like I can think of the number of times where, I'm a diversity hire, not necessarily as such, but let's look at the reality. The optics show that you've got someone like me on your leadership team, right? So looking beyond that, I am included. I have a seat at the table, but I didn't always feel like I belonged, because there were still the conversations that were happening maybe before I joined the table. There are the conversations that happened in rooms outside. There was always that, pull away from that. And so I struggled with that sense of belonging. It was just, and it wasn't enough. So it made me feel less than effective, less than a real member of the team. So I want to dive into that. You're talking about culture and how that impacts everything. So I'd love to talk more about that and figure out how we can get belonging from all the way over here to where, it's married to, diversity and inclusion. It really is the way that it's supposed to be. It's not just in namesake only, so that more women, more people, whether it's women, men, anyone, where they actually feel that sense of belonging. I'd love to talk about how we can make that happen.
Absolutely. And it's, to me, like, this is where we are. We getting a diverse workforce is no longer an issue. The talent going on in this country, people don't even know. I've been in some masterminds and my mind was blown. I was a minority, and I loved it because it gave me a point of view that I've never had before. And once we establish that it is safe to be who you are, and there needs to be some shifts, and I think it needs to come from the underserved communities, how they want to be integrated, right? Because that, I don't want to make up that, like, how do you want to be referred, right? Like, some people just don't identify with their skin color. They don't identify with where they came from. They're just American. Thank you very much. And there's some people who I've met, and it was a Black woman in particular, and she's like, listen, I'm not a person of color. I am a Black woman. I'm in the Black culture. That's how she identified. I'm like, you just tell me how you want me to say. It's kind of like in the trans world. I'll use whatever pronoun you like. Just tell me. Let me know. And if I make a mistake, I'm asking for grace. And if you don't give me grace, that's on you. Because everybody's learning, right? Yeah. We're all learning. Now, I think if we can all include, so here's the thing, in hierarchy, or in organizations that have a lot of hierarchy, that are a lot of top down, that are a lot of control, command, right? Or command and control. This is where there's a big disconnect, because there's no psychological safety for anybody under those conditions. They don't want to hear about anything, right? Needs to be, all right. Sorry, you got to know this about me. Like, I'm trying like crazy to keep my language a little less salty, because I just don't roll that way. And I'm like, I was a firefighter, y'all. Like, I worked in civil service, like, and people who are in the military get this. I'm not going to do it, but I will say this: there was in the very first Batman, absolutely slayed me, and it was when the Joker said, "This town needs an enema," and I thought, this system needs an enema. Let's just clean it out. We're not going to start over, but we do need to redefine how we engage with each other. We need to get blame and shame and judgment out, and recognize that there are people who say some really, like, straight up ignorant stuff. The question needs to be not is this ignorant, but is this statement by this person, are they trying to diminish me? Are they trying to threaten me? Are they trying to bully me? Are they afraid of me, and that's why they're trying to put me in my place? Or is this genuinely, they are doing their best? And I think that's where we miss it. That's where compassion is missing from this conversation. We got to stop thinking about it so much and start bringing wisdom to this. Can I just give you an example? I want to give you an example.
Yes, please. I would love one.
Okay, this is an example from the fire department. I worked a lot of Vietnam vets, and some of them had PTSD to the degree they would sleepwalk and like be army crawling under their beds. These guys had serious PTSD, some of them. And there was a particular one who was awful to new people. When you walked in, he would literally turn his chair around to you. And he was an engineer. He was a big white man, and he was an engineer. He lived off of Spam and saltines. Can't make this stuff up. And the department was so small that I had to learn how to drive the rig. So I was going in the process of getting my engineer's test. And when I was working with him, he wouldn't let me touch the truck. He would literally come out and shoo me away. Don't touch my truck, Barclay. Get away from the rig. I'm like, how am I supposed? What? This is all true. And I don't know how, somehow over the course of working with this man, I think what I did was I lifted up the things. I took photos of everything so I could memorize the equipment. So I like worked around him a little bit. And somehow over the course of a year, I won this man over. And I will never forget the moment that I was accepted by him. I will never forget the moment I felt like I belonged. I walked in. I'm Jewish. I walked in. He did not turn his chair around. Brace yourself, everybody. You're about to hear something terribly offensive. Trigger alert. Okay, everybody. I walked in. And he looked me right in the eye and he leaned forward on the table and he goes, "Ah, you're here. I thought the Nazis killed all you people." That was the moment I knew I was accepted by him. I can see your face, Shanna. Now, I want, the reason I use this extreme example is because, everyone's just like, "Oh God, Doc." He was a good man. He did not discriminate against anyone. In a way, he had more integrity and was so fair. The only thing he didn't like is new people because they break stuff and they mess stuff up. This was his issue. And that was his way of showing me love. I don't know what else to tell you. He was rough. He was in the Vietnam War. He was PTSD. In his culture, this was how you express affection. Now, this is sort of untenable. This was in the 90s, y'all. But I just want to use it as an example of, like, when he said that to me, I was like, oh, Doc and I have an understanding. Like, wow. And it didn't offend me somehow. It didn't offend me. And I don't know how it didn't offend me. It's because of who it came from. It's because of who it came from. It was meant to show me affection. And that's the only thing I felt in that moment. It was a spiritual experience. So I'm not suggesting at all that we need to take this level of inappropriate conduct and start accepting it because of, oh, who said it? No, that's not what I'm saying. But if you take the essence of that and apply it to people who are respectful, who do want to collaborate, right? Then you start to see, oh, this is true diversity. Even things that feel like we need to find that little spot in the middle. When you have 1,000 circles coming together in a Venn diagram, the spot in the middle is very small. We can all figure out, okay, how can we exist with each other? And, these white men were taught from a very early age, the world is your oyster, it's all yours. Yeah, you don't really need to think too much about other people. And we're asking them to give that up, to understand different points of view. And pointing our fingers at them is not going to help. And I don't know exactly what the answer is, because I think it depends on the individual, depends on the culture of the company. As far as this, the 5 pillar, right? As far as this show is concerned, when you are building a business, build it with belonging in mind. If your end game is an exit, have this beautiful, inclusive culture of belonging, of psychological safety that will serve as a touchstone for the larger organization when you are acquired. Maybe they'll come to you and say, "How did you do this?" Right? Do it from the beginning. And if you need resources, there are people like Krista Rhymes of Crude X who specialize in diversity, like such talent. They specialize in it. And I'm actually thinking about, hey, I'm going to announce this now. I'm thinking about starting an onboarding service for people to collaborate with companies who have an established onboarding process that is not really serving anybody. It does, like, hey, they're onboarded, all their stuff's in the computer, but it's not helping them feel like they belong. And that is an art. You can bring some policies to it. You can do some initiatives, but this it's time. It's so time to see an organization as a family, right? We're all different tribes under one nation, right? Enjoy your tribe, have pride in your tribe, and work with each other to figure out, like, well, the way that tribe talks is hard for me. And I see that they're not trying to diminish me with it. You're just like, okay. I've had to learn, there's certain things like, all right, this person is never not going to say guys. And I know that they're not trying to diminish me. As long as they're bringing belonging to the rest of the organization, I'm going to choose my battles.
So this brings me to a powerful moment, because I love talking with you, because I can see that your authenticity takes someone to a different place. Now, in terms of business growth, because I think that's the most important thing that businesses need to see, how can in your opinion, and there's no perfect answer here, actually, how can businesses actually grow from really immersing themselves in building tribes or engaging culture or embracing, their culture? Because I think that's significant, because a lot of businesses are trying to shift, but they don't know where to shift. So obviously it's easy for them to go back to someone or something that's common, versus embracing something that's uncommon. So how can they kind of make that shift without, leveraging where they were, but also looking at where they want to go?
I love this question, and it's so relevant. And before I answer it, because there's a lot of research around this, and I am ready, I got it in the chamber right now, I just want to acknowledge that I dysregulated y'all a little bit with that last story. And I just want to say it's okay. And I'm okay. And Doc's okay. We're all okay. And it's moments like this where culture is made. That's how sausage is made. So I just wanted to acknowledge what just happened. And I want to say thank you for being there with me and for allowing me to share something you did not expect me to say. Okay. So to your point, when you're building a business or you want to shift your business to become more competitive, especially right now being the Great Resignation, right now being COVID and needing to be flexible with hybrid work, right now with 70% of the workforce is about to become millennial, and they really, really care about why they're doing what they're doing. Especially right now, this question is hyper relevant, okay? It's very simple in its essence. It's just how you come in and execute the following. If you can imagine Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and if you're not familiar with this, just imagine a pyramid that's separated, and the stuff that's at the bottom facilitates the stuff that's atop it. Okay, so at the very bottom of what is going to make your organization hum and grow and scale and be competitive as heck, you must have psychological safety. That means, to the degree that you can, transparency. People need to feel like they can be their authentic selves. They need to show up. They are able to take the risk. So here's the key to psychological safety, folks. Again, this is foundational. I'm going to spend a couple sentences on it here. Psychological safety means that people are willing to do something that is unnatural. It is unnatural to say something like that story I just told is super unnatural. It's unnatural to take the risk of, I might look stupid. I might look judged. This question might make me look like I don't know what I'm talking about. Or this question is actually a policy that this senior leader is really attached to and has kind of hung their hat on. But I want to question this. That is an unnatural thing. It can only happen in the precondition of psychological safety, where it has been modeled by top brass that we question, that we speak our minds, that we speak up. If you see something that doesn't look right or isn't working, that's a signal that you have to have. By contrast, if you have a culture of silence, very difficult. You're not getting the signals. Instead of doing surveys, you don't have to do surveys all the time. Encourage ICs to come to their, to their direct supervisors with this information, and it gets passed up. That's how it works. Okay, that precondition must exist. What this precondition of psychological safety enables is much, much higher. The statistics are done on this. I don't have them off the top of my head, but they are impressive. This is what creates engagement. Everyone's talking about how to engage my employees. Maybe we'll do a beautification project. Well, that's nice. But can they speak their minds? Do they even know who the CEO is? Do they know your mission and purpose by heart? Are they seeing top brass living the core values in every day and being very vocal and consistent about, here's how this core value applies in this business. Here's how I'm doing it. How are you doing it? That's the stuff that engages employees and makes them feel like they belong, because they can speak up and they're valued and they want to be heard, right? Okay, yeah, that is there you go. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what I'm giving you is the culture hierarchy of needs, right? So psychological needs, psychological safety. Well, it's two there. And then we go into love and belonging. What? Okay, so then they feel engaged. They feel like they belong. They feel like I'll tell you what, this is where discretionary income or discretionary effort is made, where they go the extra mile because they know that the company cares about them. That's why they care about the company. The days where people care about the business because of their paycheck are over. Hashtag resignation. And it's women, because women aren't quitting a job. They're quitting a crap relationship. We're like, I'm out. I know I'm worth it, says L'Oreal. I'm done. How do we get these people back? Show them you care by caring enough about the business, about the core values, that you're showing up and doing it. Now, it's also been proven that engaged, satisfied employees give excellent customer service. That discretionary income goes right to the customer. It's also proven, incredible statistics, that financial success is completely dependent upon customer satisfaction. So do you see that psychological safety is actually the underpinning of employee satisfaction, which leads to customer satisfaction, which leads to financial success of the business? This is why culture is absolutely critical and is the huge competitive advantage. This is the pattern. This is the cycle. So when you can spend your time, invest in people, invest early, invest often, and never stop investing. And they will keep investing for you by taking care of your clients, by taking care of your customers. That's how it works. It starts at the top and it is supported at the bottom.
Yeah.
It is not a bottom-up thing. It has to start at the top. And if the top doesn't look like the rest of the crew, that's another place to begin. And then call the people. No need for a binder full of Black women, folks. No need for a binder full of people of color. There are recruiters out there that have so much talent. The only thing missing is the open mindset and the psychological safety for the people who are homogenized on the board to say, like, I'm ready to see my bias. If you will show it to me in a way where I don't feel judged. And we're not really good at that. That's our piece of it, folks. We're so mad. The injustice. Right? It's so hard to let go of the story of injustice. That story is keeping the story alive. Please. At some point, we all have to let it go. Doesn't mean that there aren't things in place to create accountability for crap conduct. I'm not saying that. Like I said, Me Too was good like that. But the only way to change a story is to stop talking about it and talk about the stuff that's going to change it. And we don't know. We got to start throwing more spaghetti against the wall, folks. And just do it with love. And like, okay, let's fail fast and pivot. Well, that didn't work. Okay, well, we tried. And it's because we're all trying that it works. Because we're all trying. Because we're all open. And that means people like me going into a boardroom and saying, like, okay, when you say that, I know you don't mean anything by it. That's just normal for you. Here's how it lands, though. I just want you to see how it lands for me. Just want you to know that. And I know that you didn't mean anything by it. You're not in trouble. Nobody's going to HR here. It's not necessary. So enough with the microaggressions. Stop criminalizing bias. Let's help the people who have the influence to actually lift the velvet rope. Let's make a commitment that we're not going to slay them when they make mistakes, because they have no idea they're making them. That's why it's called unconscious bias. I want us all to win. And I believe this is one of the pathways that nobody's talking about. I know it sounds absurd. How do we make white men feel safe? I know it sounds absurd because we've been focusing on our own safety for so long. But the only reason that people act like that is because they're deeply afraid. And when we start talking about what is the fear of the people who seem to have everything, now we're really starting to cook with gas. That is a conversation. I call it the warrior's wound. That's for a different show. there's something going on there. Healthy, normal people don't have these tendencies, right? To exclude. Think about how deep your worthiness wounds need to be, right? To think like, well, the only way I'm going to get love is if I am at the top, and I need to make sure nothing disturbs that. And like, I'm not saying everybody has that, but I've met plenty of white male CEOs who are doing it right. That's my podcast is called Sea Change. I want to celebrate these men and be like, look, this is what right looks like. There's lots of men doing it. They're making it happen. It's happening. We're just not talking about it because the media can't sell as much advertising with good.
Right.
So we need to talk about it amongst ourselves. It has to, that's how it's going to go until somebody like me, right? Not necessarily me, manages to help a company that, a big company switch their business or whatever. And now we start to see, I believe that money is ultimately going to be what's going to move the needle here. I believe it's going to be an economic issue. And my thing is, I don't care why you do the right thing. I really don't. Just do it. If it's money, if it's power, if it's awesome. As long as you're diversifying your boardroom and you're actually leveraging that brain trust, those new opinions, those new points of view, who cares why? I don't care. I really don't. I'm more of a how person.
Awesome. Maura, thank you for joining us this morning. You have brought so much value. We've had a blast having you on the show. Everyone it's been on the banner. You can how to contact Maura. You can order her book, seek her out, bring her into your business. And Maura, just thank you so much. Maybe we'll have you back to finish that conversation, right? We'll talk more about that. Yeah. And thank you for what you're doing and the difference that you're making.
Yes.
Oh, it's so my pleasure. I thank you for giving me this platform. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I'm deeply honored. I'm not saying that for any reason than the truth, because this work is so important and we are all doing it, not just me. We're all doing it. We wake up and do this thing. And sometimes it's hard. So I really appreciate you bringing me in and trusting your community, trusting me with your community. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Awesome. All right, guys. So we're going to wrap it up a little bit. You know what? Let's just go instead of some takeaways. I think there were some awesome ones. We have just a few minutes left. Shanna, do you want to go into the grants?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So anyone in Dallas County, excluding the city of Dallas, today is the day. Dallas has a grant program. It's a $15,000 grant. I'm going to look at some of the criteria. You have to be registered with the state, physically located and operating within Dallas County, been in business since March 1st of 2020. You have to be current on all of your taxes, Dallas County and local taxes, no more than 100 employees, no more than $1 million annual gross revenue, have to have experienced loss of at least 25% in income. So there's just those types of criteria. If you meet those, today is the last day to apply. What I'm going to, Todd, if we can get a link to this grant on our I Do Systems page on LinkedIn, we'll put it on all of our social media just so that you get the link. They're closing the portal today. So show your business some love. Go apply for this grant. If you meet the criteria, $15,000, it's going to help you. But Natalie, and I know you're going to talk about this in just a minute, when you get that money, or if you get that money, you're going to need to know what to do with it. So listen to Natalie tell you what you should be doing next.
Yes, talk to somebody about what to do with that money. That is for sure. All right, awesome. How exciting. And we'll drop it in the chat for the show as well, so it's easy for you guys to find. So awesome. There's just so much opportunity out there, guys. So thanks for joining us today, and happy Valentine's Day to everybody. I'm going to end us with just a couple fun facts for Valentine's Day. Did you know that we spend $20 billion on Valentine's Day? Is that insane? $20 billion is how much we spend on Valentine's Day. Men spend an average of $291 for the holiday, women $106. We spend $17.1 million on gifts for our cats, $27.6 million on gifts for our dogs. And the first heart-shaped candies actually came out in 1861. And then I'll end with this. We actually have 6 million people who get engaged on Valentine's Day. So 6 million people that get proposed to. So hey, today could be your lucky day. You never know. So have a beautiful Valentine's Day, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Do something today that your business will thank you for. Thank you to the LA Tribune. Thank you to I Do Systems for sponsoring today's show. Thank you to Maura for being our guest on the show today, our guest expert. Thank you to everyone who's came and joined us this morning as well. We'll see you next week. Have a great week, everyone.
Our goal is simple: to help you achieve the dream and vision you first had when you thought about starting a business. We're here to make growing your business less complicated. There are building blocks to build a sustainable business. We promise to seek them out and address them all. The Better Your Business Show starts now.